Welcome to Wahsa Distant Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is SVN3E, grade 11 workplace science, and I am the teacher, Bronwyn Slate. Unfortunately, you can't participate live today as I couldn't be here, so this is a pre-recorded lesson, but welcome, and we will connect with participating live next day. If you are wanting to join with the Zoom class with the link, you can, I'm going to walk through how to do that. So I've sent out links to all of my students, and the DCs also have them available. So you click just on the link that has been provided, and then you click join with computer audio, and we'll say the class will be recorded. So you click got it. And then at the bottom of this on the left-hand side of the screen, click the video and the microphone buttons, turn them on and off. So I would encourage you to click the mute and turn it off here, just so that we don't hear background sounds that are happening on your side. And then if you want to ask a question, you can then unmute yourself and click that back on so that you can ask a question and we can hear you. If you want to have your video running, you are welcome to. Note that if you do that, we are recording and I do upload our videos onto YouTube. So you probably don't really want to have your video just so that you're not posted on YouTube Learning. But of course, it is your call. I won't have my video running just because it's a distraction. We'll focus on the material instead. Then to leave the class at the end, you click the red end button at the bottom right hand of your screen. And then you're good to go. Oh, if you ever click the end by accident, you can always rejoin the class, no problem. The other Zoom feature is that we have subtitles available. So if you would like to turn your subtitles on or off, you click these three little button dots at the more, and then you can either click hide, so yes, the more, and then you click hide subtitles or show subtitles depending on what's best for you. In my experience, Zoom isn't great at understanding. They often get things wrong that I've noticed, but it can help you if that's something that you want, and we can work on improving that if that is a need that you have. All right, so just to confirm the difference between radio Zoom classes and the IL courses. So first, how are they the same? The course material, evaluations, and resources are all the same, whether you're registered in the radio Zoom class or in the IL course. Anyone can listen and participate in the radio Zoom classes. So even if you are registered in the IL course and you've been working on it for a period of time, you are still welcome to join us for the radio Zoom classes. And then all of our lessons are recorded and posted on YouTube shortly after airing. So everyone can access them, whether or not they're in the radio Zoom class or in the IL course, everyone has access to them. How different is that the radio Zoom has a schedule of 4 times per year and the classes run for 9 weeks. So during this section, I will be explaining the course concepts and showing examples, working through all of the 20 or 23 lessons or so. The IL courses are open to start and finish at any time between August 30th, 2021 and June 10th, 2022. So the IL courses you can work on at any time. The radio Zoom courses, you're kind of expected to work along with us as we're airing. However, if you're in the radio Zoom class and you don't complete it, you can then switch over to the IL course and continue to work on your course material until the beginning of June. So our radio Zoom schedule is, we are scheduled on Monday through Thursday from 3 to 4 every day. So Fridays are a day to connect with me, ask questions, wrap up any finishing work, do your own thing. But Mondays through Thursdays are the days that we air. And this course is from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. We right now in week 1 of our 9-week course. So we're just starting and getting going. So a reminder of what work to submit for marking when you're ready to. So the key questions in your booklet are the ones marked with the key icon And those are the questions to submit. So please do all of them. They fall under different categories. They fall under check your understanding, activities, and review questions. So all of those, no matter what it's called, all the assigned questions, please submit for marking. Show all of your work, your steps, and your thinking so that I can truly understand what you understand and give you credit for all of your understanding, as well as if you're making misconnections or missing information, that helps me understand where you might be going wrong. Make sure you're actually answering the question. Often we can sometimes get sidetracked or think that we've answered all the question and we haven't completed it yet. So always go back at the end and check to make sure you actually answered the question that's being asked. And you can do your work by hand. You can write it out, that's fine. Or you can do it electronically and send it to me either way. I'm totally fine. I just ask that you make it as legible as you can. And however you're doing it, just make sure that you're writing your name and the lesson that you're working on it so that I know what it is that you're working. You can hand it in electronically through Word files or Google Doc files. Through NNEC, you have a Google account, so you have access to Google Docs. If you don't have a word processor and you want to use that, that's totally fine. Let me know if you need help with setting those up in any way. I'm happy to do that. Submit your work for marking. So the first method is scan and send your work in electronically. So you've written it by hand, scan it. If you've done it electronically, you can just send it electronically. You don't need to scan it, it's already in the computer. So you can scan your completed work through a smartphone, either through the iPhone Notes app or the Android Google Drive app. If you don't have an iPhone, or sorry, a smartphone, you can just take a picture and send that as well. That's fine. But scanning it, we'll talk about why that is better. You send it to me either through email and sending it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca, and then CC it to me, bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. Bronwyn is spelled BRONWYN and Slate is SLATE. Or you can connect with me through Facebook Messenger and hand your work in there. You can attach files and send it there. So my name on Facebook Messenger for work is B Slate Wahsa. So then a quick comment about scanning versus taking a picture. If you scan with the app on your phone instead of just taking a picture, it means that it is easier to create one file with all of your pages. So that means that we don't lose pages and information when you're sending things to me. It's faster because it simplifies the image. So it makes it a smaller file, which is easier to send. So that's really beneficial. Of course, if you can't do it, it's totally fine to take a picture. But if you can figure out how to scanning it, it just can make things a little bit easier and simplifies it, like takes out shadows and stuff. So it can be useful to do that if you are able to. If you want to learn how to scan with your smartphone, let me know and I can totally help. We can video chat or talk on the phone, or I can send you an email about how to do it. So just let me know if you need that help. The second method is to drop your work off into Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our address 74 Front Street. We're the big red building next to the post office. And as you can see, there's a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. So you can just put it in there and then I will get it as soon as I can. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. And your DEC can either send your work in through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, I have a Facebook account and a YouTube channel that are both under the name B Slate Wahsa. So you can find me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then after our every radio Zoom class is aired, I post it onto YouTube and I share it on Facebook. So that's a really easy way to access our lessons if you want to review them at a later date. So I would encourage you to do that just because that might make your life easier in the future. All of our classes will be added to a playlist called SVN3E, our course code. So then you can find them and you don't have to go through all my videos from my math classes as well. It's just an easier way to find all the science classes. Any questions or concerns, please contact me. This is what I'm here for. My whole role is to support you however I can. So it is really hard. I will check in with you and I will follow up, but if you don't reach out or if you don't connect with me, I can't help you. So please reach out if you are struggling with something. My email address is bronwyn.slate, again spelled BRONWYN onwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. My Facebook is bslade, which is one word, and then Wahsa. You can call and leave a message for me at the main office, which is 807-737-1488, or toll free 1-800-667-3703. And then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. My office hours currently are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So I should be able to get back to you fairly quickly within those hours. All right, before we dive into our science, I just want to touch base about positionality. So I think that this is really important in all of our courses, but particularly in science because of the way that we are taught. So me, as your teacher, I want you to know a little bit about me in terms of my perspective and how I understand the world and my biases and the assumptions that I make intentionally or non-intentionally, but just to be aware of and what I'm working on. So I have white settler ancestry. I am white. And so that influences the way that I see the world and the way that I understand the world. I have that privilege, which means that I might miss things sometimes. I live in Northwestern Ontario on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe people. And so I honor that and respect that. And that's important to acknowledge in terms of as we're learning about the environment around us and things like that. And this is the first time that I'm teaching this course. So I have lots to learn and also to unlearn ways that I've been taught and have learned in education, and formal education has been Eurocentric. So really based in this European ideals and the white supremacist sort of ideal in terms of that traditional way being the correct way. Sorry, correct in air quotes. You don't get to see that when I do air quotes with my fingers when we're on the radio or on a recording. But so I'm working to unlearn some of those biases and perspectives that I have to honor a larger worldview and to honor Indigenous teachings and knowledges as well. But that is just where I do come from. And so I'm working to acknowledge that and shift that perspective so that when I'm teaching science, we don't just have this basis of assumptions of the straight white man's perspective of the world, but that we include the rest of the people and their understandings of the world as well. Additionally, our textbook is written from a same perspective. So it is very Eurocentric. It says things when you start to think about it are kind of ridiculous in terms of who discovered what and who have established ideas, which is, again, positioning the European ideal opposed to acknowledging the Indigenous knowledges and the ways that many people have been thinking and learning and sharing information for thousands of years, but instead saying, oh, this white guy discovered this and established this, and therefore this is what we know because of him, which is just not realistic. So it has some problematic language, and it most likely ignores Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis knowledges and experiences. So I will try to supplement that information within our course to acknowledge those knowledges and experiences, because there's a wealth of wisdom and expertise from Indigenous, Inuit, and Métis peoples, particularly around environmental science. And so it's important to include those teachings for us to really understand the best that we could. So I will do my best, but again, because of my positionality, I don't have a really firm grounding in that. And so I'll be learning how to do that as well. So if you have any suggestions or things that you'd like me to do to improve or ways that I could improve, please just let me know. Right, so this is our course, Environmental Science, SVN3E. We're going to do an introductory today. This is before your course workbook material and assignments, but just to sort of give us an idea of what this course is about. So our learning goals are that at the end of this course, you can say, I will be able to explain what is involved in the study of environmental science, and I will begin to understand the impacts of human behavior and the challenges we face. So first we're going to learn, we're going to dive right into some new concepts. So environmental science is the study of the interaction of the living and non-living components of the environment, with special emphasis on the impact of humans on these components. So it's the interaction of everything, basically, and focusing on how humans have impacted our health and our situations, as well as all of the other living animals and living beings and the non-living elements of the world. So environmental science is really about looking at how the environment impacts humans and how humans impact the environment. So it has an applied goal. So it's about developing solutions to environmental problems. And it's an interdisciplinary field. So it connects between the natural sciences, so information about the world, and the social sciences, which is about values and human behavior, politics, economy, etc. So you can see on this graphic that environmental science is really connected to all sorts of things. So this graphic shows ecology, biology, chemistry, atmospheric science, oceanography, geology, archaeology, anthropology, sociology, history, political science, engineering, economics, and ethics. So environmental science connects to all of these other things and brings them together in a wealth of information. So we need to know, what is the environment? Well, the environment is a total of our surroundings, all the things around us with which we interact. So the living things, the animals, plants, the forest, the fungi, the non-living things, so the continents, the oceans, the clouds, the rocks, the soil, and the things that we've built. So buildings, human created living centers, things like that are all part of our environment. Also the social relationships and institutions. So how those all interconnect and interact with each other is part of our environment. So we need to think about natural resources, and all of this, remember, today is just an overview. We'll be looking into some of these things in more depth later on. So these are the substances and the energy sources that we need for survival. We have renewable resources, which are perpetually available. We have sunlight, wind, wave, geothermal are all examples of renewable resources that are always available. And then we have renewable resources that renew themselves over short periods of time. So timber, water, soil, they are, if we use them up in ways that are unsustainable, then they can be non-renewable. We may be able to deplete them, but if we are careful, then they will renew themselves over a period of time. So they can be destroyed. We have to be conscious about it. And then we have non-renewable resources, which are oil, coal, minerals, things like that. And they can be depleted. We can use them all up and then they will be gone and we will not have access to them again. We can't recreate them. So that's the environment, but what is human impact? So thinking about global human population growth, so just the sheer numbers of us, not the choices we're making, but just the numbers of us, we now have more than 7.9 billion humans on the earth. That is a lot of people, almost 8 billion people. So here we have a graphic that shows how many people live on the earth. And just so we can see this axis, the horizontal axis is the years before present. So 10,000 years before present, we had an agricultural revolution. So we started growing food and being aware of that. And then that started to increase our population. And then over time, it got more and more stable. And then very recently, we had the Industrial Revolution and our population has skyrocketed. And now we have billions of people, whereas for thousands of years, we had less than a billion people. We had millions of people. And now we're just rapidly skyrocketing. So why do we have so many humans? Well, with the agricultural revolution, we had stable food supply. So we were able to grow our own food. And that meant that it was easier for us to survive. And the Industrial Revolution meant that we urbanized our society. So we brought people together and we powered that with fossil fuels. And we developed sanitation and medicines. We continued to have more food that we could store. So we were able to get healthier and healthier and weren't dying off as consistently. So we're living longer lives and our children were living longer lives and therefore there were more and more people. So human population growth exacerbates all of our environmental problems. So because we have more and more people, that makes things more and more challenging. So we aren't growing as fast as we used to be, but we still add more than 200,000 people to the planet each day. So we depend completely on our environment for survival. Our environment means whether or not we are going to be successful or fail as a species. And if we just keep using up our resources, we're in big trouble. So life has become more pleasant for us so far. We've increased our wealth, our health, our mobility, our leisure time. But the natural systems have been degraded and environmental changes threaten long-term health and survival. So because we are focusing on our enjoyment of the world, we are doing that to the detriment of the environment. And that already has impacted the world around us. The way that we look at this is the ecological footprint, which you may or may not have heard of before. And so this is the environmental impact of a person or population. So it's the amount of biological productive land and water for raw materials and dispose, and for the materials and to dispose or recycle the waste. So right now, humans have surpassed the Earth's capacity. We're using 30% more of the planet's resources than are available on a sustainable basis. So we need 30% more of a planet in order to sustain just where we're at currently. And not all ecological footprints are equal. So they vary greatly from the countries around the world. So the US has a footprint that is almost 5 times greater than the world's average. So here in this graphic, you can see that's represented as a footprint, a larger footprint, and Canada has a similarly large footprint in comparison to many other places in the world. In terms of, you can see the world average here is this 2.2 hectares of size of the footprint, and the US and Canada's footprints are quite a bit larger than that, opposed to other places like Pakistan, which is actually smaller than the world average, or China's, which is fairly similar but a little bit smaller than the world average, or Rwanda is also a lot smaller than the world average. France is bigger, but it's about twice the size instead of 5 times the size. So that's just interesting to see who is impacting our environment. Developing countries have much smaller footprints than developed countries. So that language is a little bit problematic, but in terms of rich countries, so often in the Western world, so places like Canada, the US, many European countries, Australia, New Zealand, these countries have much larger footprints than countries like Ethiopia or Pakistan, Rwanda, India, Indonesia. They have smaller footprints, then they are impacting, using up less of the world resources than the countries that are wealthy and are using up a lot of the world's resources. So what are the actual environmental impacts? So we have faced challenges in agriculture. So expanding food production has led to increased population and consumption. So yes, we've been able to grow more food, which is great, but that has led to having a bigger population and consuming more food and therefore needing to grow even more food. It's one of our greatest achievements, but it also has an enormous environmental cost. So nearly half of the planet's land surface is used for agriculture. So this means that for agriculture, we have chemical fertilizers, pesticides, erosion, changes in natural systems. We are impacting the actual physical land to grow ourselves food, both plant food, but also cattle and livestock. Sorry, couldn't think of the word there. We face challenges in pollution. So waste products and artificial chemicals used in farms and industries and households means that we're polluting our environment. Each year, millions of people die from pollution. We face challenges in climate. So scientists have firmly concluded that humans are changing the composition of the atmosphere. In this course, we believe science is real, and we believe in the climate crisis and the impacts of global warming and climate change. So that we speak that as a truth that is non-negotiable. So the Earth's surface is warming. Melting glaciers, rising sea levels, impacting wildlife and crops, increasingly destructive weather means that you still have 3 or 4 feet of snow in April in some places like here. And you can see in this graphic that in 1979, you could see the ice, all of this white at the North Pole of the Earth, the northern part of the Earth. This is Greenland, here's Canada. You can see this big sheet of ice, whereas now or just September 2020, so a couple of years ago, you can see from the same view how much of that ice has been reduced. We're losing a lot of that ice, and what are the impacts? The sea levels are rising, and how is that going to impact? That's going to continue to impact us. So since the Industrial Revolution, atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration has risen by 37% to the highest level in 650,000 years. That's pretty dramatic and is going to have some pretty dire consequences. So we also face challenges in biodiversity. Human actions have driven many species extinct, and biodiversity is declining dramatically. Biodiversity loss may be our biggest environmental problem because once a species is extinct, it is gone forever. We can't recover it. So our energy choices will affect our future. The lives we live today are due to fossil fuels. We are incredibly fossil fuel reliant as a society. Maybe some individuals aren't, but as a society as a whole, we are 100% reliant on fossil fuels. So these are our machines, our chemicals, our transportation, our products, all of this. Plastic, which is all around us, is made from fossil fuel. So that we might not think that where you think of fossil fuels is like driving gas, but it's everywhere around us, and we can't really function. It's highly unlikely that you could function a whole day without the use of fossil fuels in some way. So they are a one-time bonanza. Supplies will certainly decline. We are already declining, and we have used up half of the world's oil supplies. And so how are we going to handle this? Our life is reliant upon fossil fuels. And if we've already used up half, most of them in the last 100 years and less, then what are we going to do in the near future, let alone future generations? So kind of like, isn't the solution just stop? Can't we just all agree that this is a bad thing and we need to just do it differently? But we have to ask, so what is an environmental problem? So the perception of what constitutes a problem varies between individuals and societies. So I have this image, which I found, but couldn't get a lot of more information about it. But it has who looks like a nurse spraying a child with this cloud or something. And I don't know what that cloud is, but it makes me think about the fact that in the past, many medical procedures were done, and many ways that we just lived in terms of smoking or in terms of all sorts of things that we do in our world. And we're just like, oh, it's all good, no worries, it doesn't have any impact. And then in the future, we've learned those impacts are great. And we're not necessarily making informed choice to the best of our ability. So with time, we're shifting in terms of understanding better about the choices, the impacts that we have. But not only is that connected in terms of in the past and the future, but also in terms of different places in the world. So for example, DDT is a pesticide, which you may or may not have heard of. But in places where malaria in places where there are malaria-carrying mosquitoes that are plague people, it is welcome. DDT is useful because it kills the mosquitoes and it saves lives. But in places where malaria isn't a concern, like Canada, it's not welcome due to health risks. So DDT is not allowed. There's bans in places in the world because it has an impact on your health. But in some places, it is essential because it kills mosquitoes that carry malaria, which is plaguing the population. So not all of our experiences are the same, and therefore we can't have an obvious solution that is, if we just all did this, would work. Because what would work for people in northern Canada, like none of it, is not going to be the same thing as people in Mexico. Their needs are going to be dramatically different because their environments are dramatically different. So it's also important to know that environmental science is not environmentalism. So environmental science, which is our focus of our course, is the pursuit of knowledge about the natural world. So scientists do their best to remain objective. And I would argue that it is impossible to remain objective. It's impossible to put aside our biases. But in theory, we're attempting to do that as observers of the world. But how I approach that is that we talk about our biases and our perspectives and how that might impact, the way that we're perceiving something. So I don't think that scientists really can be neutral, but there's this idea that environmental science is neutral. Whereas environmentalism is a social movement dedicated to protecting the natural world. So environmentalism is focusing on actively change and protecting the environment and protecting the world around us. Whereas environmental science is learning about the world around us and trying to gauge and collect information about the choices that we need to make and the shifts that we might need to happen. Sustainable solutions do exist. So this is good. We just need to figure out how to implement them in our various places in the world based on all of the elements that impact our choices, that impact our situations. So we must develop solutions that both protect our quality of life and the environment. So we're not saying that we all need to stop everything and live in a hut and go back to being hunter-gatherers, but we need to figure out ways that can sustain our lives, but also can not be impacting our environment. So that might need some shifts, but that we still have a quality of life. So organic agriculture is one solution, technology that reduces pollution, biodiversity that protects species, waste disposal like recycling, but also reducing, and alternative fuels are all some sustainable solutions. So our sustainability is the goal for the future. So how can humans live within the planet's means? How can we not be using more than what the Earth has to offer? So sustainability leaves future generations with a rich and full Earth. So we're not screwing over our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. We conserve Earth's natural resources. We maintain fully functioning ecological systems. So this means that also, because we're humans are not the only one who use the Earth and benefit from the Earth. So our impacts are also impacting other species. And so being conscious of that and about their generations as well. So then sustainable development is the use of resources to satisfy current needs without compromising future availability of resources. So thinking about the future and making those choices as we develop further. So will we develop in a sustainable way? Can we actually do that? So this graphic is called the triple bottom line. So sustainable solutions that meet environmental goals, economic goals, and social goals. So we have this Venn diagram of economy, environment, and society that overlaps. And so sustainability is where all three of those overlap. That is our ideal so that we can have a healthy environment, a healthy economy, and a healthy social environment or social lives. So this means that humans are required to apply knowledge from the sciences to limit our environmental impacts and also maintain functioning ecological systems. So we need to think about the greater picture. All right, so that is an overview of our course. So a reminder that environmental science helps us understand our relationship with the environment and informs our attempts to solve and prevent problems. Solving environmental problems can move us toward health, longevity, peace, and prosperity. Environmental science can help us find balanced solutions to environmental problems, and that is the focus of this course. So the focus of this course is to understand those problems, understand those impacts in the world around us, and then work towards solutions, learn about solutions that we can implement and we can encourage others to understand and to find that balance. This is all based off of our textbook environmental science interactions. And so all of our lessons throughout this course are based off of that. So we have 7 units, and we will be working towards completing all of those 7 units through this 9-week course in order to cover these ideas. So unit 1 is we are the guardians of the earth spheres. So understanding what actually is happening in the different spheres of the earth, so soil, water, and air. Then we need to maintain, unit 2 is maintaining healthy ecosystems. So how do we talk about our footprints and the effects that we have on the ecosystems around us? Unit 3 is environmental effects on humans. So in reverse, how does the environment impact us? And if the environment is depleting, what does that mean for ourselves and the impact on humans? And then unit 4, our energy in our lives. So looking closer at renewable and non-renewable resources. Unit 5 is making workplace safe and building energy efficiencies. So looking specifically at the impacts of work environments and how they impact the environment as a whole. Unit 6 is healthy ecosystems. So looking at biodiversity and how that affects sustainability and having a sustainable world in general. And then unit 7 is using natural resources with sustainable practices. So looking particularly at how we can be sustainable within our natural resources use. So that is a general overview of what environmental science is and what our course is. So hopefully we will have an enjoyable time diving into all of that information. As always, the best way to be successful in this course is to connect with me so that we can work together. I will send out information and I will reach out to try to support you. But if you don't reach out back to me, or if you don't ask when you are struggling with something, I really can't know. If I connect with you, you're just say, yep, I'm good, and fine. Then there's no way for me to support you if you're not fine. So it's really partially the onus is on you as an independent student. So someone from not all of them together, the onus is on you to reach out if you need help. So please, if you have any questions or any concerns, anything that you want to talk about, contact me. This is why I'm here. This is a large chunk of my job, is to support you. So I need you to reach out if you need that. My number at the office is 807-737-1488. And at this point, as we're figuring out reopening and COVID-19, leaving a message at the main desk is probably the best way if you're going to call. And then I can call you back if I am not, until we are actually open at the office, and then you can connect with me directly there. Our number is also, a toll-free number is 1-800-667-3703. My email address comes directly to me and is probably, it's one of the best ways to get a hold of me because it comes directly to me and I answer it fairly quickly. And that's bronwyn.slate, which is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. And then also connecting with me through Facebook is really, really quickly and direct to me, and I respond to that fairly quickly. And my name there is B Slate, so that's all one word, BSLATE. Wahsa is the last name. And then also my YouTube channel is B Slate Wahsa, and there all of our lessons will be uploaded after airing so that you can revisit them and connect with them as you're doing your work, as your key questions and stuff, and that can help you go through your work. So those are really good resources while you're working independently to be able to access our learning materials. My office hours for this term are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So that's the time that I will respond most quickly. If you are struggling with something and you need to connect over the phone or through a video call and you can't meet within those hours because of other life commitments, that's totally fine. If you connect with me, we can arrange a time that might be more appropriate for us to work together. So that is completely reasonable. And so again, reaching out to me is going to set you up for the most success. I will check in and I will reach out to you. But if you are struggling or if you have questions, please reach out to me so that I can support you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely day. Look forward to working with you as we learn about environmental science and work through this course together. Take care and miigwech.